Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we're unpacking a truly profound concept of human agency through the fascinating lens of traditional Eastern thought. More importantly, we're going to see exactly how this ancient wisdom applies directly to our modern lives, contrasting it with Western ideas along the way. Get ready, because we are about to completely reframe how you look at your own potential in this explainer.
So think about this for a second. Does fate rule us, or are we actually the authors of our own destiny? It's kind of the ultimate question, isn't it? For centuries, humanity operated under a pretty passive assumption that we're just at the mercy of heaven, or the cosmos, or, just the luck of the draw. But today, we're shifting away from that idea entirely. We're charting a dramatic pivot away from fatalism and getting right into the driver's seat of human action.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Defining Seongsa jaein. 2. The human realm. 3. Eastern and Western perspectives. 4. The catalyst for action. And finally, 5. Modern real-world applications.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Defining Seongsa jaein.
Now, this concept isn't just some archaic vocabulary word. It's a complete paradigm shift in how we interact with the universe around us. Rooted deeply in traditional Chinese and Korean philosophical texts, Seongsa jaein translates to achievement depends on humanity. It is a fiercely human-centric ideology. For the longest time, the dominant worldview was incredibly heaven-centric, meaning the cosmos pretty much dictated your lot in life. Well, Seongsa jaein completely flips that script. It declares that success and failure hinge entirely on human effort, not just on some external predetermined destiny.
To really anchor that definition, let's look at this idea. All things in the world are achieved if humans do them, and not achieved if they do not. It sounds almost deceptively simple at first, right? But think about the weight of that statement. It beautifully distills the core idea that human will, and more importantly our active effort, are the ultimate deciding factors in our reality. Literally nothing happens without us.
This idea has so many layers of significance. It stems from classical texts that place a massive emphasis on human responsibility. Philosophically speaking, it elevates our own effort and will way above external fate. On a practical level, it means we don't just sit back and accept a passive state of nature. Our active effort actually physically changes the world. And perhaps most importantly, there's a really strong social component here. It highlights our interconnectedness. Your individual efforts don't just affect you in a bubble, they translate directly into collective, societal results. You are an active, world-changing participant.
Moving on to Section 2, the human realm.
So, if we are these active participants, where exactly does all this effort take place? In Eastern philosophy, this domain is known as Ingeguan, or the view of the human realm. It's defined as the world where people live, build relationships, and form a society. But I want you to frame this in your mind not just as a physical location on a map, but as a deeply dynamic sphere. It's a space where human interaction, cooperation, and community building literally serve as the fundamental building blocks of reality itself.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to look at the larger framework known as the three realms, or samge. You have heaven, which provides the overarching natural order. You have earth, the physical domain of nature and the ground we walk on. And then you have the human realm. Now notice how the human realm isn't just sandwiched in the middle as some sort of afterthought. It is uniquely defined as the very center of relationship, cooperation, and activity. It is a realm defined entirely by the value that we create together.
This intersection elegantly illustrates how humanity acts as a bridge. We aren't just existing blindly inside of nature. Our realm is fundamentally relationship-centric. We take the grand natural order of heaven and the raw physical materials of earth, and through our interactions and our subjective participation, we harmonize them. We are the active ingredient in the mix.
The crucial point here is summarized perfectly in this powerful quote. Humans achieve the Tao does not achieve humans. The human realm is a world subjectively constructed and developed by humans. This really cements the idea that our culture, our civilization, our rules of engagement, they are entirely subjective, and they are built by us. The universe provides the canvas for sure, but we are the ones painting the picture.
That brings us to Section 3, Eastern and Western perspectives. It is incredibly fascinating to contextualize this on a global scale. How do different philosophical traditions view this active role of humanity? Well, some distinct patterns emerge. The Eastern perspective leans heavily into relationships. It's all about finding harmony among those three powers we talked about, heaven, earth, and humanity, and fulfilling our cosmic role within that triad. The Western perspective, on the other hand, evolving from ancient Greece all the way through modern times, tends to focus much more on individual freedom, the essence of the self, and the social contracts we form with one another. Yet at the end of the day, both traditions are ultimately trying to solve the exact same puzzle. What is our active role in the world?
Looking specifically within the Eastern tradition, this idea of human agency actually breaks down into a few distinct schools of thought, but I want you to notice the common thread of active realization here. Confucianism requires the active practice of benevolence and righteousness to build social order. Taoism requires the active pursuit of natural harmony, paradoxically through non-action or wu-wei. And Buddhism focuses on achieving human completion by actively understanding our interdependence, utilizing compassion and wisdom. In all three of these frameworks, humans aren't just sitting on the sidelines. They are actively required to step up and realize universal truths. And to show just how universal this struggle for human agency really is, we can look to the West. This classic quote from Jean-Jacques Rousseau brilliantly captures the tension between our inherent individual freedom and the societal structures we build around ourselves. It proves that whether you're looking east or west, defining our agency, breaking our chains, and taking an active, responsible role in our world is a core human pursuit.
Section 4. The Catalyst for Action.
Now, it's one thing to have a great philosophy, but it's entirely another to understand how it actually serves as an engine for societal progress. Consider this thought. If names are not correct, language is not in accordance with the truth of things. Affairs cannot be carried on to success. This illustrates a meticulous, step-by-step chain reaction of human action. It shows us that blind effort just isn't enough. Intentionality, correct understanding, and properly directed human effort are absolute prerequisites before anything of value can actually be achieved.
So, what does this catalyst look like in practice? Well, it looks a lot like this. We have to view ourselves as subjective actors. We are aggressive participants, not passive observers waiting for things to happen. It relies heavily on social solidarity, where your individual proactive judgments merge with mine to create real community success. And it all rests on the principle of achievement, which is the uncompromising belief that absolutely nothing happens without human will. This is a human-centered development model that completely, 100%, rejects fatalism in favor of proactive responsibility.
And finally, Section 5, Modern Real-World Applications. How do we take these ancient universal philosophies and actually ground them in the reality of how we live and work today? Because honestly, here is the real takeaway of this explainer. This isn't just history. It's not just theory. The concept of Seongsa jaein is a universal human philosophy that completely transcends geography. It serves as a vital, highly practical blueprint for navigating the immense complexities of modern society. Let's look at exactly how that plays out. Notice just how directly achievement depends on humanity applies to our daily domains right now. In organizational culture, true innovation doesn't just spontaneously happen, it requires employees to take proactive responsibility. In social development, civic duty and voluntary citizen participation are quite literally the only real ways we solve systemic problems. On a personal dimension, having a self-directed attitude fundamentally dictates your life's success. And finally, look at the education paradigm, where we are desperately trying to shift away from old-school rote memorization.
Let's actually drill down into that educational shift for a moment, because it perfectly mirrors our whole philosophical journey today. Step 1 is the old way, dependent learning. This is passive observation, basically sitting around waiting for the heaven of the teacher to dictate the facts to you. Step 2 is where we need to be, self-directed learning. This is active, subjective participation where the student actually creates knowledge for themselves. Stepping into our own agency completely redefines how we learn, how we grow, and how we adapt.
And that brings us to our powerful crescendo. By embracing Seongsa jaein, we fundamentally transform. We shed that old identity of being passive observers waiting for fate to just happen to us. And instead, we become the active architects of our communities, our businesses, and our global relationships. Our active participation is quite literally what builds the world.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. You've seen the historical context, the deep philosophy, and the highly practical modern applications. Now that you know the true power of your own agency, how will you apply your will to shape the world around you? It's your human realm. It is time to actively design your destiny. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I hope you found it as fascinating and empowering as I did.